Yeah, hello everyone. It's Kim and Patricia again with I don't know which business update. I believe it's number six.
Mhm.
And yeah, Happy New Year's to everybody, and we hope that you had a nice holidays. It's unbelievable that it's already 4 weeks again, right, Kim?
I cannot believe how fast the past 4 weeks have gone. Is it four? It might be five. I can't recall if we did it a little bit, different on the last schedule, but
Yeah, we switched schedule a little bit. Usually we do end of the month, but then we didn't manage to meet up end of October, so we did the recording beginning of November, and now it's again beginning of January.
I
No, the
love that
beginning
one
of
of us,
December. That's it.
yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
love that one of us is keeping track because I just show up for the fun.
Well, tell us a little bit. How has your month been?
It's been busy, as far as business update. Honestly, I kind of have just taken a little bit of a break in terms of clients this past month. My family did a lot of traveling with the holidays. My husband had a couple of surgeries, so it's just been busy in other ways. But I'm excited that it's a new month and a new opportunity to kind of reassess where I was, where I want to go. And now all of our traveling is done, so I'm ready to kind of get back on the horse, so to speak, and move forward. How about you?
Yeah, it's been equally. It was more mental stuff I did, I guess, on the business side. I mean, I continued with the videos. So that's good, but also, yeah, I mean, the time just flew, right? And suddenly we have 2026. And yeah, so I continued with the videos and just did more mental work around stuff. So I would like to start, but yeah, I also need to wrap my head around how I want to position myself because it's going really slow for me still,
Mhm.
business wise. So I need to keep things realistic, how much more energy I can and want to put into this. I don't have a problem with getting the shorts out, but yeah, I think some longer form content of 8 minutes or so would be really good. But yeah, again, it's something I need to wrap my head around because once I commit to it, I again need to commit to like maybe not 100 videos, but 50 or so. And then suddenly it becomes a bigger commitment instead of just trying it out, if that
Yeah,
makes sense. So yeah, are the thoughts I'm having. And I also, yeah, was just reading books and fell in love with traditional Chinese medicine again. And yeah, ordered a few books there. And as I live on an island, it will take some time until they get shipped. But I'm, yeah, looking forward to just learn more and stay in the topic and expanding also my practice in terms of depth. Yeah.
that's awesome. And I've been watching your shorts and they are amazing. I'm inspired. Maybe I'll create my own YouTube channel. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Ooh, you
I
definitely should.
I need to take some time to kind of reassess also kind of the direction I want my business to go in and what that really looks like. You had a little bit more slower growth at first. I had a little bit more quick growth, but I think that both provide their own challenges and opportunities, right? And so my business grew really fast, but I didn't have as much of an opportunity to be as intentional with the way it was unfolding, as you have had a very good opportunity to be intentional. And so I think that there's things
Yeah.
and both balance from that.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm excited to see how yours continues to unfolding with maybe the longer content, etc.
Yeah. So let's see where the journey goes. But I'm definitely relaxed. So
Good.
yeah. Yeah. And do you already have a plan, a map for the next 4 weeks or not so much?
I think right now, and we talked a little bit about this off camera, my computer, I'm needing to get a new computer. My computer has got Windows 10 on it, and so it's not upgradable and not really functional. So I'm in the midst of evaluating new technology that I'm going to be needing and purchasing. So I think once I have that in play, it will give me a little bit more the tools that I need to do the planning that I want to do. So really that's kind of be depending on what machine I get, is it going to be the next 3 weeks business wise, just having to learn a new Mac? Or is it going to be, if I get a Windows machine, really digging deep onto what type of software am I needing maybe to do more content creation? I really, really feel passionately about creating resources for clients, whether it be free or paid. So that's kind of what I'm feeling. Nothing set in stone yet, though.
Okay.
How about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I feel like I want to take things easy for the next 4 weeks. So maybe even take just to shake up the algorithms. I've been continuously posting now for 2 months, if not a little bit more. So maybe I just take a week break from creating shorts and then dive back into it because it felt like so hectic and time just flew. So I think it would be good just to take a step back and yeah, assess a little bit, let things settle, and then yeah, crank up the machine again when I'm ready and know what I want.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of value in that. And before we get too further into other conversations, I wanted to ask you because I know you wanted to do 100 videos. Is that, am I remembering,
Yeah.
is your goal? Where are you at on that?
Where am I at? I mean, if I would need to look it up, but maybe 63 videos in a row.
Really great.
So I think it would be a good time to then have a week break, even if it's only a week, and taking that time to, yeah, just evaluate what has been working well. I definitely have a good system that makes it fun and really fast. So
Good.
I bulk record these shorts,
Mhm.
and so it's a process of maybe 2 or 3 hours max.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's.
that's really good.
Is there more that we want to talk about as far as business, or do we want to go ahead and transition over to the topic for today?
I think that was a really lean update, but it is what it is, right?
Well, and I think that there's value in acknowledging the season that we're in, and maybe we can just talk about that for a minute, just in terms of, you know, people, I think on the whole, and this may just naturally lend itself into the topic of today in terms of New Year's resolutions, but I think on the whole, people just have this concept of always doing more, doing more, doing more, always being productive, and is all throughout all 4 seasons, right? But that's not how our bodies were designed. If we look at nature and the rhythms of nature, what are the animals doing in the winter? What's the vegetation doing in the winter? It's not out there producing, it's hibernating, it's dying back, it's slowing down. Even the length of the day is lesser in those
Yeah.
winter months. And so I think that there's value in slowing down a little bit, recognizing the season that we're in, not metaphorically, but physically, the season that we're in, and what shifts do we maybe need to do to support that biologically. The sun,
Yeah.
at least where I'm at, is going down a lot sooner, but am I making the shift to maybe honor that slowdown? Not
Yeah.
always, if I'm being honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, even where I live, of course, it's a tropical environment, but still, I mean, the sun has different times, right? We have less hours of sunshine. So, and it's also being a woman, we have this 28-day cycle. So, yeah, maybe it's just time to listen instead
Yeah.
of expanding.
Yeah. I think, oh, I love that. Well, and that, I love that we have come here in our conversation today, because I really felt called at the end of this year to sit down with my day planner. Yes, I have historically used a paper planner. I'm transitioning to digital, so we'll see how that goes. But I really felt called to sit down with my planner to really just hold space and evaluate what all has transpired over the last 12 months, because it felt like a lot. And I felt the call in my heart so clearly. And from my perspective, it was the Holy Spirit drawing me that that was something that was important that I needed to do. And I did not make space for it. I did not carve out the time.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting because so now we're in January, we're in, 2026, and there's been some things that have come up that I ultimately later realized, oh, if I would have taken the time to unpack all of what transpired last year, it would have given me more compassion towards myself as to where I'm at in a few different areas of my life now moving into 2026. And
Mhm.
I just think it's beautiful how our body and our subconscious or God will bring these things to our mind if we listen, but we can't stop at listening. We then have to
Yeah.
follow through and take that action.
Yeah, but already being able to listen is such a game changer. I mean, yeah. And also to hear what's coming up,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Not everybody's doing that, right? So I love that conversation to just reflect a little bit also on the entire year. Um, yeah, taking that time. And it doesn't have to be a big journaling exercise. Or what did you do in the end? Did you sit down or?
Well, so what I started to do, I didn't just ignore it. I did sit down and try to start it a couple of different times, but then other things took my attention. What I started to do, and I still will do because I see the value in it, is go through each month on my calendar or journals or whatever other note taking devices I have where I may have noted down what was going on in that month and just laundry list it. Okay, this happened in January. This happened in February, and so on. And then my plan is to go back and really journal through that. What emotions come up, what feelings come up, what insight comes up. And of course, me through my Christianity lens will be doing that with the lens of, okay, where did God show up, or what was he trying to tell me that maybe there was a lesson that I gained or a lesson that I missed. And it's really interesting because this is not a practice that I've done historically. This is the first time I have ever felt called to do that.
Mm,
And then I started thinking about it and just talking about it with my husband, and just different things that he brought to my mind that I completely forgotten that were really huge things that made it make so much more sense of, okay, because all of these happened, all of these experiences, not happened to us, but happened for us, right? Verbiage is important. But because we experienced all these things, that gives us background and context to understand why we are where we are now,
mm.
figuratively and literally, whether it be finances, relationships, you name it. It just provides a lot of context that we otherwise would have missed.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great exercise because I mean, it ties into our topic we want to talk about today, willpower and New Year's resolutions and all those things. And then what comes up to me is also manifestation, you know? And one step of manifesting is also realizing where shifts are already happening in your favor. So when you go back through your year with that lens on and listen to what comes up, that's probably also very revealing.
Yes, I love that. And I love the way you phrase that, because if there's shifts already happening in your favor, that gives you an opportunity to, one, take note of direction, and two, capitalize on that momentum.
Yeah, yeah. So did
Yeah.
you come up with any New Year's resolution for 2026 in your process?
No, I didn't. And that's, I think, part of our conversation today is, I don't really make resolutions because I think willpower alone isn't going to get you where you want to be. But rather than resolutions, I think, and I think this is a word that you've used before that I've seen in some of your shorts, orientation or
Yeah.
alignment. So it's like, where do I want to go? And then what parts of my identity are in alignment with that and what's not in alignment with that. For example, if I want to be a person who is healthy and fit, first of all, what would be any mindset that and beliefs that are keeping me from that, and where do I need to change that brain pattern? And of course, that's where the work that you and I do come into play. And then, secondly, embody the habits and traits that someone who is healthy and fit already embodies as part of their identity, because you're only going to your body and brain, your conscious mind are only going to act out and behave as if things that your identity believes is true, that your subconscious believes is true
Yeah.
about who you are. And I think that's where the disconnect comes for a lot of people. So for me, no New Year's resolutions specifically, but goals and better alignment for me would be just releasing more lies, stepping more into who I have been created to be, what my true identity is, and be more mindful and intentional in really in every part of my life, but health and fitness also. Yeah. And relationships. It's like it's really hard for me to just like narrow it down to just like one. And that's probably why I don't make New Year's resolutions, because
Yeah.
I think as long as you know that the main trajectory that you want to go to, and then work on any obstacles that may be preventing you from not obtaining it, but becoming it.
Yeah.
Right. There's a difference. To me, one is a goal, and then, okay, you reached the goal. Now what? You did X, Y, and Z till you got to that goal. But if you haven't changed, even if you've changed your behaviors to get you to that goal, if you haven't changed your mindset and beliefs about who you are, it won't be sustainable. That's where it's that willpower will not get you to what you want to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. Yeah. So what comes up for me for 2026, but it's also hard to measure. So it's not really a goal, but it's that's why I also want to take some time and to reflect a little bit more on, but to look for evidence that I'm provided with a lot of opportunities and taking those opportunities as well. So I think that would be a good exercise for me. Yeah, also to embody a little bit more daring trait, if that makes sense. Is that understandable?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense to me. I would love to invite you, if you want to speak into a little bit more of like other specific areas that you want to be more daring. Is it just or is it just in general?
It is definitely in the business, in the HIP business side, where
Mhm.
I have the feeling that I'm limiting myself a little bit, and that I
Mhm.
have more opportunities in reality that I think I have. Um, yeah, and then on a personal side, no, nothing comes up. It's really more to my HIP business related. Yeah.
So what's your process? I talked a little bit about what I was called to do and still need to continue working on as far as evaluating last year, but do you have a particular process for this?
No, no. It's just that I continue doing this work and yeah, also try to educate myself more. And I just realized I was collecting brain patterns and beliefs for a while. And sometimes you just hear something in a movie or somebody in a conversation you have with someone, and it stuck to me really like take more chances. That's something that stucks for me since that's sticking with me since a few days. Yeah.
That's really great, because if you don't take a chance, you can't get the reward that may have been there for you.
Yeah, and it's also a conversation we had earlier in with respect to you choosing the next computer brand.
Yes. Yes.
It's like, you know, you can, we were talking about how how carefree times used to be maybe 15, 20 years ago when we were excited to spend so much money on a new computer. And now it's like, oh, will this be the right decision?
Yeah, it's a
When
big
did all
deal.
of that happen?
Oh man, I'm sure we could do work and figure out where for me, if there's different brain patterns as a child that were developed, safety, fear of making mistakes, the pressure of a
Just
business. There's so many
experience.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so many
Yeah.
different things. But I love that you brought that topic back up because I think we've talked about it in previous conversations, but joy and play and how important that is to our nervous system. So, in using the analogy of this computer that I'm going to get, not analogy, this reality rather, um, mindset and how my nervous system is going to react based upon my mindset is going to be, I think, a huge part of this ultimate way I experience this. If I get the Mac, which is new and different for me, and I go into it with fear and trepidation, it may not be a good experience. But if I go into it with excitement like a child and, ooh, I have a shiny new toy to learn, it will probably be a much different experience in a positive way than the aforementioned.
Yeah, and also your other thing you shared then was like maybe I'm supposed to struggle with this and realize that I can make it through,
Yeah.
right? So there's this, it's two sides of the same coin, you know?
Yeah.
But I guess that's maybe something I would like to, now that we talk about it and I reflect on it, that's something I'm not sure if it's a New Year's resolution or so, but I would like to really like to experience that childlike curiosity, carefreeness, and just figure it out, right?
Yeah. That would
Yeah,
be good.
so that's and it will be a nice experience to go through my calendar and also see where this showed up in 2025, maybe already.
Yeah. Well, we'll have, I think, really interesting things to talk about in our next conversation because by then I think we both will have, navigated through a few things that will be exciting to talk about.
You will have your new computer.
I will. And I will either be loving it or I will have returned it and on to the next one. So we will see. But speaking of that, any viewers, if you have thoughts or preferences on Windows based versus Mac based, feel free to drop them below and I will pay attention.
Yeah. So now, I mean, we wanted to talk a little bit more about New Year's resolutions and, yeah, why willpowering yourself through things is not a good idea, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, and I can go ahead and start. The first thing that comes to my mind is the part of the brain that you're using. First of all, how your brain is hardwired, and then the part of your brain you're using. So your brain is wired for efficiency and survival. So if you have developed ways of being, whether you want to call it a survival resource pattern or just comfort and familiarity, which equals safety, then that's how it's the most easiest, most efficient way for you to continue operating through your life. So if I never ever exercise and all of a sudden I make a New Year's resolution that, oh, I'm going to exercise every single day and it's just going to happen and I'm going to muscle through it, I maybe could muscle through it for a while, but over time it's not going to be sustainable. And that really speaks also, landing back over to the what parts of the brain are in use, are the prefrontal cortex, which is, up here, first your thinking brain versus more your reptilian brain back here. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and if I'll just open up, let you talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, yeah, what you say, the willpower lives in the prefrontal cortex, but we are wired to kept safe and it's just amazing how great of a pattern recognition machine we are. So yeah, it's just fascinating and that as you said, it's we are wired for energy conservation and yeah, trying harder underst trying harder, you put yourself into stress, and what gets activated when you're stressed? So the subcortical survival circuitry again, right?
Yeah.
So I admire people who are like, well, I muscle myself through this, but yeah, ultimately you're punishing yourself, right?
Yeah. Well, and if you kind of track back to that example that I was starting to give about going to the gym to get fit, let's narrow it down even more specifically to, let's say I wanted to lose weight, or someone wanted to lose weight. And so they started going to the gym, they started watching their diet, and maybe they started losing some weight because the behavior changes they are doing, byproduct wise, yes, may result in some natural weight loss. But then over time, if, for example, there's a brain pattern to where they're not feeling safe. The weight wasn't about their diet or their
Yeah.
exercise. It was about putting on weight to feel safe, kind of like a buffer of safety around them. Then the body and the subconscious mind over time will kick in and say, wait a second, we've lost this weight. I don't feel safe. This is not in your best interest to have this weight gone, and create new areas that you're going to start putting that weight back on, whether that be, all of a sudden having sugar cravings, or whether that be um, uncontrollable, you can't stop eating once you have started, those types of things. But I think that that's just a solid example that we could provide the viewers to kind of understand how that works a little bit.
Yeah, and also realizing that you probably learned this safety pattern. If we stick to the weight loss example of eating provides, if I have that physical boundary around myself, this equals safety. This pattern was probably learned pretty early, right? So y- and then it gets even more difficult to outwill a survival pattern that was formed before willpower, your prefrontal cortex. We know that this is built rather late. Your survival brain is the oldest part of the brain in your body, and also how do you call it, evolution wise, of course. But I mean, your survival brain is what kept you alive. So you have those instincts, those patterns since you were born, or they were developed when you were born because you needed to be provided with love, touch, food, and what was the other thing? I forgot.
Filter.
Shelter. Yeah. So if that was formed, that survival pattern was formed before your prefrontal cortex kicked in, it's really hard to outwill that pattern. And also, I mean, one of my favorite words these days is capacity.
Mhm.
A few years ago, we were calling this resilience, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you want to change, I mean, we all have those desires and wants and wishes for our lives, but then we struggle with the actual capacity to change and to transform and to bring those things into our life. So when you are depleted, when you feel threatened, or when your nervous system feels threatened, when you're dysregulated, yeah, so your brain will always override and go back into safety mode or to maintain safety instead of, yeah, open up for change. And
Well,
capacity is also in a sense of, I mean, if we want to bring it really broad, for us as an HIP, at least for me, it's always the basics need to be covered. Sunlight, grounding, you need to be mineralized, you need to move your body. So those are the basics. And as long as this is not in place, capacity for change will be a real struggle.
I agree with you. And then for me, from my lens, I would also add on their identity. And again, from a
Okay.
biblical Christianity perspective, what lies are you believing about? A lot of times it comes back to value, and a lot of times it's fear based and shame based.
Yeah, belief systems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do we go about this? Did we cover everything? Why they phase? If, while the New Year's resolutions failed, you have low mineral, you have yeah, you lack capacity in terms of mineral reserves, you are not mineralized, sunlight, circadian input, lack of grounding,
Mhm.
chronic sympathetic activation because we all scroll on Instagram, for example. And I mean, that's so beautiful that you do this 2025 review exercise because it helps you to address unaddressed emotional load, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and one other thing, and I I was wanting us to also bring like a tangible tool that we could share with the viewers. And if I don't know if you already have thought of one, but I did think of one that we can share if we want to do that now, or if we wanted to cover a little bit more content. But I think we've covered a sufficient.
Yeah, let me just go through my notes. You mentioned shame.
Mhm.
Yeah, because ultimately, if our willpower fails, it reinforces that shame. We feel threatened. We feel, yeah, the patterns get more activated.
Yeah.
And then framing it back into a capacity issue, that's something that restores it for me a little bit without attacking myself. So that's maybe already a little shift.
Well, and I don't know if I articulated it in as much of a way as I wanted to when you talked about capacity. So I want to revisit that for just a moment because I
Sure.
think that there's two, possibly three different areas when we're talking about capacity, at least from my perspective, that always needs to be addressed. So there's all of the things that you talked about. So for me, that's a very physical level of physical capacity. Does my body have the functional ability to change? And that's very important. That's foundational. And then there's the mental, which is the brain patterns that we've developed, the belief systems. And then there's this, from my perspective, the spiritual as well, which the
Mhm.
spiritual ties very closely into those belief systems. But then the different aspect of that to layer in would be like, okay, here's the belief system that's the lie that I'm believing. And then here is the truth. Because I think capacity in terms of identity, again, looking at the shame and fear based identity versus being a new creation in Christ, if you believe you emotionally and spiritually are a container space for something greater than what you're experiencing right now, it allows you to step more freely into that. And there's less friction or cognitive dissonance between the person you are experiencing yourself as versus the new you that's becoming continually over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a practice, I believe, hey?
Yeah, it is. Wouldn't it be great if it was one and done? It'd be boring though. Life would be very boring.
Switch it on.
Yeah.
So what do you say? What is something that we can I know that our physical capacity building blocks, they sound so boring, but if you do regular grounding, if you get your early morning sunlight in, especially if you are properly mineralized, that will already open up a lot of space for change. Um, I really like the example you brought that you review your calendar from the last year. That could be a vehicle to practice coming closer to yourself, to your capital self,
Yes.
for your spiritual practice.
And that's really the tool that I brought today is kind of based on that to a degree. It's providing, the brain is very predictive, right? We have these brain patterns and it's working to keep us safe, and so it's also very energy efficient, and so it's going to try to predict the things that are happening next. Think about driving a car, right? When we very first learned how to drive a car, it took all of our mental capacity, focus, energy, attention, but now our brain has become used to that and accustomed to that. So those processes have become more automated, if you will, and it's moved back to that kind of background of just doing it automatically. So, in that same vein, our brain needs to be provided with evidence
Yeah.
that we are these new things that we want to be changing into and growing and learning. So it's very simple, whether you want to take, the past year of your calendar, the past month, just even today, or even over a lifetime. But I would encourage people to sit down, find a quiet time, quiet space, just kind of center yourself, which you can do simply by just being calm. Place your hands over your chest if you'd like, a few deep breaths. Doesn't have to be anything too strict, rigid, or over the top. Just take a moment to be calm and ask yourself what patterns or identity, what lies maybe are you believing that you would like to release? And that word release is really important because the nervous system, when it hears release, it's a more gentle term for stop it, let go, don't do this anymore. Those are very harsh. They're not welcoming to the nervous system. And again, the nervous system and the subconscious brain patterns are really big on safety. So what patterns do you see that you would like to release, and write that down. And then take a moment to reflect upon, what would I like to become? And that word become is equally important as release, because it's not like pressure, you have to do it now, a resolution, if I don't do this, I'm going to fail. But that
Yeah.
word become is an invitation.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be received a lot more gently by the nervous system.
Yeah.
And then go back and review whether it's that calendar year or the month, the day, the lifetime. Provide your brain with evidence to support that you maybe have already embodied who you want to become. For example, I attended a conference this past year, and they talked kind of around the same topic. And in one of the exercises we did, I realized, oh, I want to become more brave. And it's like my subconscious brain just kicked in, and all of a sudden, two or three different examples of bravery came to the forefront of my mind. And so then it took away this friction of me trying to fight against myself of, oh, well, I'm not really brave. No, my brain provided evidence. Oh, look, I moved across the country without even having a job. That takes bravery to do that. And then a few other things that came up.
Yeah. And what you mentioned, I mean, first of all, that's all very beautiful, and it's an amazing. I love that experience for you because brave. We also know that brave involves fear, that you step over your fear, right?
Yeah.
And I just find it very amazing for you that you had that capacity to that you were so regulated, that you had that capacity, that you were presented with that insight, like, wow, I am really brave. That's huge.
It
That's
was a
really
big
cool.
deal.
And also, I mean, on the other hand, we all love smart goals that are measurable and so on, but I think that's not how life works. I think it works better when you go into directions and then be surprised on how it shows up in your life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And we talked about that a little bit earlier on in terms of the orientation and alignment versus a hard and fast goal.
Yeah. Yeah, because you'd be surprised how much good stuff shows up already in your life if you're just a little bit open to the interpretation of the outcome.
Yes. And that
Yeah,
is a whole other topic too that we could maybe have a conversation on if we haven't already, and just in regards to gratitude and how it shifts our
a
focus.
100%. Gratitude, 100%, and releasing the how.
That's big. That's huge.
Yeah, yeah. That ultimately boils down, I mean, the example I brought earlier, or the statement I did earlier, it boils down to this sentence like, yeah, release the how.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And there's, just speaking from neuroscience perspective on that, when you release the how, I think it does a few things, right? It unleashes creativity for one. And it also frees up energy in the body because you're not constantly running that hamster wheel in the back of your mind of, how do I make this happen? How do I make this happen? If you just release the how, and it just opens up those channels to flow more.
Yeah, your subconscious mind will figure it out. The universe will provide, or God provides, or whatever you
Yeah.
believe in, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, yeah, do we revise our New Year's resolutions, our goals for 2026 in this regard, or
Well, I think for me, I still feel like I really, really need to go back and review 2025. One of the posts that I made was for on January 1st, is that you're not behind. Just because the calendar page turns doesn't mean that if you didn't have your life figured out, or your resolutions or your goals or your laptop figured out. For me, you're not behind. And so for me, I want to be intentional. I want to take the time to go back, review, and then really kind of get a better insight of, okay, here's where I've been. So since I know where I've been, where that helps me know more of where I want to go. So next
I'm not
conversation.
sure. I'm not sure if for myself taking more chances is a good resolution for 2026.
Mhm.
It's a little bit too broad, hey? Yeah.
Maybe you get to decide. That's the beauty, right? You get to decide if it's a certain area or in general. It just really, I think that that's where the value comes in slowing down, taking
Yeah.
time to sit with yourself, really, because everybody may have very, very different resolutions, and it might mean something very different. Taking chances to you might mean something very, very different than taking chances to me or the viewers.
Yeah. It's an interesting conversation.
It
I
is.
feel like I'm making it too easy on myself because taking chances can, yeah, is a little bit too broad.
Mm. Which is really interesting because, again, from perspective and from lens, because to me, I hear taking chances and it automatically default goes into like every category. And so it's a hard push, like take chances, do the thing, do the scary thing, buy the expensive computer, buy the new car, bet on yourself. Like it kind of can encompass a lot of different things.
Mm. For me, what resonates in regards to this is as well, take more chances is like realize how many opportunities you're already being provided with.
Mm.
I think
And
that's the a little bit of a thread there for me.
what if that's the beginning of, like, it's the first thread in a big tapestry, but this thread needs to be pulled first in order to
Yeah,
like realize
yeah,
everything else.
yeah, yeah,
So maybe you're the only one that can decide, right? And will know, like,
yeah,
is this being easy on myself or is this really what I need to do? Kind of like with me and the computer, and you brought it up, is maybe there's no right or wrong answer, but maybe for me, I need to choose the Mac so that I can experience, oh, this was a wrong choice for me in this season, but I needed to experience it to know that it's still okay to make a wrong choice or a less preferred choice. So you
yeah,
just the only one that get to decide that for you.
yeah. Well, I mean, speaking from my experience, and because you already use an iPhone, I think it will be a very seamless experience for you transitioning over to a Mac. It will not be easy, but also going from Windows 10 to something new on a new Microsoft computer is also different. But yeah,
That's a very good point.
yeah,
Change is the only constant, right? We're always going to have change. We're always going to have
yeah. And we
not
don't
happy.
want to transition into a session for you right now, but I'm so inclined to probe more.
No, no, we'll have to put that on the burner.
We switch off recording for that part.
Yes, yes. So, well, I think maybe just a final takeaway, I guess, parting words, if you will, to kind of close out the session, at least from my perspective, is that there's a lot of opportunities, and the new year can bring a lot of opportunities, but it also can bring a lot of external, or, well, false internal pressure to get things right, to accomplish those things. And so I would just offer a reminder of grace, that people give themselves grace and compassion, and that there may be something underlying that they're not aware of yet in terms of the brain patterns or the capacity that we talked about that might be going on under the surface. And
Mm.
so that's something that, either you or I can help with in terms of brain patterns, or someone else. We just want people to get well and to have the best year, the best month, the best life that they possibly can.
100%. Yeah, I have nothing to add to that. And yeah, as always, it was a beautiful conversation with you, Kim.
Same.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Patricia. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Okay, bye
Bye
bye.
bye.